Whenever you sing a song, the first note comes out of silence. And the last note, when you finish the song, falls back away down into silence again. And they say that no matter how many tunes you play, no matter how many songs you sing, there's no cure for silence.
Hey everyone, it's B007 back for a 10-minute movie review of Pat Collins' art house movie Silence, which is released in UK cinemas this weekend and is also available on demand. My word, where to begin with this movie? I mean, this is art house to the max. It's a 90-minute film which has precious little narrative or character development. It's basically this real-life chap called Egan, who plays a sound recordist of the same name, who's commissioned to go to Ireland and make sound recordings of the natural world without any kind of human intervention. So no background noise, no cars, no traffic, no people. And the way in which Pat Collins uses this is to basically follow Egan around, getting more and more into the Irish countryside, which I have to say looks absolutely stunning. And we just have endless shots of Egan just staring into the countryside with his sound recorder, just listening to, the wind running through the grass and the trickle of the water. And oh my word, it's pretty testing. It's the kind of movie I can imagine if you were in the right frame of mind, you could really lose yourself in. But every time I was captivated by this beautiful scenery, and I guess maybe it's a fault of me as a watcher of film that I respond a lot more to visual rather than oral imagery. Every time I lost myself in this beautiful landscape photography, I was brought out of it by a kind of rather pretentious old Irish buffer sort of spouting some poetry, or a rather kind of trying to be earnest and meaningful conversation that Egan would have with a passerby that would just really test my patience. So there's a lot of conversations where people are speaking to their childhood in Ireland and maybe regretting the current modern world and trying to escape back into it, perhaps. Both with Egan making his sound recordings. For instance, there's a proprietor of a shop who keeps all these old objects, and there's this real nostalgia for that past. But that all makes it sound like it has more form and shape than it really does. It's sort of a movie that exists, does its thing, and then sort of stops, and you leave the theatre thinking, I'm not entirely sure what I just saw, or really if it's going to stay with me in any meaningful way. And that's really quite sad. And I was trying to think of, are there other very art house, very high concept movies that explore these same themes about nostalgia and trying to get back to some kind of primeval, perhaps, nature, that do so in a more engaging manner. And I was thinking actually of Guy Madden's My Winnipeg, The Hills, The Laps, The Forks, if anyone's seen that, which is this very similarly playful, similarly earnest, and yet so much more entertaining movie, almost romanticizing Guy Madden's childhood in Winnipeg. But I'm afraid this movie is just too earnest and too purist for its own good. It's just so hard to get a hold of it that I found it incredibly tough watching. And there must have been a way to make a movie about the subject that was more fascinating. I think, in a way, the formal or stylistic problem with this film is it's hard to categorize it either as a sort of standard fiction drama or as a documentary. And there are times when it feels like a documentary and actually might have been more successful without setting up the expectations that labeling something a drama brings out. And for instance, if you go onto IMDb, this is very clearly labelled as a drama, where it has garnered awards on the festival circuit. It's as a drama. And yet the British Board of Film Classification, who by the way have given this a rating of PG, have called it a documentary, and it just sits uneasily between the two. I think that confuses the audience, and certainly confused me and didn't really live up to my expectations. So I'm so sorry to give this a bad review. I just think it's really pretentious and really unsuccessful in a way that's similarly contemplative movies such as Terrence Malick, who do concentrate on the power of nature and yet situate that within a wider story, are so much more successful. However, if you have seen Pat Collins' Silence, and I kind of still want to recommend it on the grounds that if someone's trying something so brave, so high concept, you almost want to applaud that by watching it and seeing what he's made of it. If you've seen it and agree or disagree with my take, then feel free to leave a comment on the blog at b007.com. Otherwise, thank you for listening. Silence has a running time of 87 minutes and has been rated PG in the UK for one scene where it's implied that a dog is killed. It was released in Ireland in November 2012 and is currently on release in the UK, as well as being available to download on demand, for instance, from the Curzon On Demand website.